Hi everyone, welcome back to Bumble Stitches. This is episode 4. It's Sunday 18th of December. My name's Nicola and thank you for joining me today. It's a bit grey at the moment. I did plan to podcast a bit earlier today but had a Christmas cake in the oven and didn't want to risk leaving it in too long while I was busy podcasting. So I've been patiently waiting for that to come out the oven, which it just has. So I thought I'd just sneak up and get the podcast done. Been a bit of a busy weekend. 2 Christmas cakes, finished all my Christmas gift knitting, finally got the Christmas tree up, and feeling a little bit more happy and calm about the coming festivities next week. So fingers crossed everything goes to plan. Apart from our Christmas tree lights, which I bought yesterday in Tesco's, popped them up on the tree, 2 sets, and this morning 1 set is working and 1 set isn't, so we'll have to see what we're going to do about that. But anyway, on to the knitting. As I mentioned, I finished all my Christmas gift knitting and I've got quite a pile of homemade presents here. So all this lot is everything that I've done. So some of the things you'll have seen, you'll be familiar with. So there was obviously the windswept shawl, which I showed you before, the Cornhill shawl, project bag, which is one of my aunties. I was going to keep that for myself and make an extra one, but time just ran away, so I decided to give that one to her anyway. Then there is 1 pair of Hermione's everyday socks for Lulu, another pair of Hermione's everyday socks for my auntie, and a pair of, well, one's just fallen on the floor, but you get the idea, and some vanilla latte socks for Justin's dad. So 3 pairs of socks. And last but not least, just off the needles yesterday, is Emily's rainbow hat. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. This was the hat that was a pair of socks that didn't play nicely, so I decided to knit her a little hat from Knit Picks Felici in the rainbow colourway. Just a simple little beanie pattern with a 2x2 rib. I hope the light's okay. And I made a nice pom-pom for the top. It's been washed and blocked. And yeah, so the pom-pom on yesterday. So I hope she's going to like that. It's a really cute little pattern, and she has been after a hat for some time, so all the gift knitting is done, which I'm really, really pleased about. It gives me time to do some new cast-ons, which I have been busy doing. Works in progress then this week are in my lovely little loop and bar project bag is the sock head hat, and this is the one that I'm knitting in the Sweet Georgia Cash Lux Spark. So the light in here is really not great today. I hope it's going to be okay. And that's the sock head hat pattern, free on Ravelry. It's coming on really, really nicely. I'm not going to do it too long. It's got quite a deep rib. I'm going to do the version that's less slouchy. It will either be for myself or Lulu, whoever it fits best really, or who it suits best. So neither of us are really into the sort of really slouchy styles, so I'll just do it to the slightly shorter version of the pattern. See who it looks best on. It's a bit like Cinderella, who the slipper fits, so whoever the sock head hat fits shall wear it. Excellent, I really like that project. It's a nice simple knit. Works in progress, I'm just checking my notes. Next thing is, I don't know if you remember, a couple of weeks ago on the podcast I was telling you about some yarn that I bought for Lulu when we went to the Yarnporium show, and it was yarn from Mrs. Moon, and they have their range of plump yarns which are super soft. I think they would be classed as a single because they're not like applied yarn, and I bought 2 colours that Lulu chose. This is their Mrs. Moon Plump DK. I'll just check the colourways on the bands for you because I can't actually remember what they were called. This is in my little bobbins bag. Okay, so this one here is the marshmallow colourway, and this one here is Darjeeling. So those are the cards there of the the labels of the skeins, and it's a 80% merino, 20% baby alpaca, 50-gram skeins they were, so perfect for mittens. And it is just so, you can see it's got a nice sort of halo to it, this yarn. It's really squishy and plump, as the name suggests. Really, really nice to knit with. It's a little bit splitty, if I'm honest, but once I got into the hang of allowing for the splittiness, it's knitting up really well. So I'm knitting a pair of mittens for Lulu, which is what she asked for. Just get the pattern out and show you. And this pattern was free on Ravelry, and they are the green leaf mittens. So they've just got a leaf design along the top of the mitten, and these are designed by, who are they designed by? Amy Mercer is the designer, and this is her blog, which is called Spicy Jelly Bean Kids, where the pattern's listed. As I said, it is a free pattern on Ravelry, so check that out. And the actual mittens, I'm doing them magic loop. Just pop that down. Keep dropping everything. Okay, so she wanted the cuff of the mitten in the marshmallow colour, and then the main body in the Darjeeling. So you can see I haven't done much of them. I got a bit easily distracted yesterday with all the things I wanted to cast on and yarn I needed to wind. But you can see the leaf pattern starting to form here, and then just plain on the back. But you can see the yarn is knitting up really, really nicely, and I think she made a good choice of colours. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when I get to the thumb gusset and inserting the thumb, because I've never knitted mittens before, but I'm guessing if you can knit a sock, then a mitten isn't too much different. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it should be okay. Just some Addy 3mm needles. So I don't think they'll be done before Christmas, but she'll have them for after Christmas, when it'll probably be colder anyway. And this is a small, the pattern says it's a small lady size. Well, I don't know if you can see, compared to my hand, I mean, that really wouldn't be anywhere near big enough for me, but Lulu has got really small hands. I didn't want to do big mittens that are sort of, you know, her hands feel swallowed in, so they should be a good fit for her once they're done. And of course, once they are done, I get to use my really super cute little mouse wooden mitten blockers that I showed you a couple of episodes back. So yeah, I'm really actually looking forward to that most of all, once they're blocked and on those really lovely little mitten blockers. So that's work in progress that I started yesterday, cast on yesterday. And I do have another work in progress, which is over here. This is in a little project bag. I bought this off Etsy last year. This was actually the first project bag that I bought. I didn't really know much about project bags, and I was quite naive about all the things that were available then. Not anymore. I can't remember the name of the seller, but it's just a little drawstring bag. And I bought it because I was planning my Christmas Eve cast on with Danny, which I did. I did cast on Christmas Eve. and that was actually the second pair of socks I ever knitted. So the fact that I had a Christmas project bag and Christmas yarn, it was really enjoyable. That's why I'm so looking forward to doing it again this year. So I've got some socks in here. Let's just get them out and show you. Now the pattern I'm using is one that's pattern of the month at the moment. I think lots of people are doing this one, and it's the Mercury socks. Again, this is a free pattern on Ravelry. I was quite surprised actually. I thought it would be a paid for pattern, but it is a free pattern by Kim McKenzie, and it's a really nice lace pattern, which you can see here, and it's quite a simple. I think it's a 5-row repeat. Just double check. Yeah, 5-row repeat. Yarn overs and slip knit and knit 2 together, so nothing difficult. And what I really like about this pattern is the fact that they give you various sizes. So it goes from casting on 48 stitches up to 84 stitches, which is ideal if you're like me and you've got a bit of a bigger ankle and leg, lower leg. Yeah, it's nice to have the option for a sock that is a little bit bigger, and it's actually written that way in the pattern rather than just adding stitches yourself and wondering if it's going to work out or not. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to these coming along. I'll just show you my progress. I only cast these on last night while watching TV, so there isn't a huge amount of progress, but you can see, the pattern is starting to form, and they're really pretty. I really like them. It's a really enjoyable, just enough to keep you interested, but not too complicated so that it becomes the only thing you can do. So I was sort of watching a film and doing the socks and having quite a lovely time, really. This yarn is absolutely gorgeous. This is the Nora George yarn that I purchased, and it's a sock set, and I believe it's called Candy Cane sock set. I'll just check on the band. Yeah, Candy Cane sock set. And as usual, Tracy has surpassed herself. There was the skein, the 100-gram skein of this, which has obviously got the candy cane colours, the red fade into pink, and then the natural. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there is a nice silver stellina in there. Yeah, you can just see the little twinkles. It's knitting up beautifully, such lovely yarn. And included in that sock set was the little green. It's coming up a bit vivid there. It's a little bit darker in real life. That's probably a bit more like it. Yeah, a little, I think it's a 20-gram. Yeah, it's a 20-gram mini, which is more than enough. I'm going to do the heels and toes from that. I think they'll be super Christmassy. Because originally I bought these for my Christmas Eve cast on, but as I'd finished all my other projects and I really wanted to do some selfish knitting, I wound up quite a few skeins of yarn, printed out some patterns, got myself all organised, and then there was no stopping me. I had to get that cast on. So yeah, that's all we've got so far. Just a cuff, a few pattern repeats, but really, really loving it. Proper candy cane look to these. I like the way the darker splashes are just coming through as it's being knit. While I've got this project bag out, I'm just going to show you my row counter. This was actually a gift earlier in the year. I don't know if any of you are familiar with these. This is a circa row and repeat counter, and it's absolutely brilliant. I think mine came from meadowyarn.co.uk. I think there are other UK sites that sell them, so if you just pop it into Google. But it's absolutely brilliant, because I was always one for writing repeats down on a piece of paper and ticking off each row as I went, which is fine, but to have something where you can keep track of everything in one sort of tool, and I do quite like a gadget as well, So you can see you have three pointers on the front. It's all numbered around here, and then there are three corresponding cogs, sort of a bit like a watch really. So for example, on the Mercury socks, it's a 5-row pattern repeat, so I've set the grey to 5, and then every time I complete a row, just move the counter round a notch, and can't do it because I'm trying to do it backwards, but you get the idea. You just move it along until you get to 5 and then start again at the top. But the beauty of this is that you can do, if you're doing decreases on a sleeve or increases or whatever it might be, you can also be counting a pattern repeat, and you could then set another for, you could set this green one for decreases or increases, and keep moving that along as you move along your rows. So there's up to 3 varying things that you can count at the same time, which makes life so much easier. So that's a brilliant little gadget, and they're relatively inexpensive, so I'm thinking really good idea for a gift for a fellow knitter or crocheter. And they're manufactured by Grello and Gray, but as I said, you can buy them in the UK from Meadow Yarn. I think the other site I saw them on was Tangled Yarn, but that's one of my favourite little gadgets. In fact, I wish I had more than one, because then I could leave them in more than one project bag while I had things on the go. So that's the works in progress for this week, so I hope you enjoyed seeing those. Just have a little sip of my drink. I've got a new mug this week. Really don't need any more mugs, but I couldn't resist it. I was in John Lewis doing some Christmas present shopping and spotted this one. I thought it was a nice big size when I have hot chocolate, but I haven't got hot chocolate today. I've got a spiced apple tea, which is really nice, sort of like a winter warmer. Okay, so whips to be. I have got obviously the 2 pairs of socks, or 1 pair of socks on the needles, and a sock head hat. I've got a plan, oh, and the mittens. I've got a cast on imminent for the Christmas Eve cast on obviously Christmas Eve, which is going to be, I showed you this last week in this lovely bag, which is another Nora George yarn, which is the ice skating, which is all caked up and ready to go. It's really twinkly and pretty, this one. So many lovely colours. Actually wound up quite nicely. My ball winder seems to be playing up a little bit. I don't think it's because it was a cheapy one off Amazon. Yeah, so that's going to be cast on Christmas Eve, and I'm going for the Curious Handmade vintage fairy light socks. Obviously, like everybody else, I would dearly have loved to got one of the kits that Danny made in collaboration with Helen of Curious Handmade. She did the pattern, Danny did the project bags, and Hedgerow Yarns did the yarn. But they were very limited in quantity, and I wasn't even around when the update went live. So I thought next best thing is to get the pattern. I've got some beautiful yarn, nice project bag, so I've kind of made my own kit. So that will be my Christmas Eve cast on. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I think that yarn in this pattern, I think it's going to be really pretty. It's still got that nice softness about it. So that's a whip to be. But another project that I'm thinking of doing, obviously all my projects are quite small accessories, fancying getting a shawl on the needles. And one that I would like to do, it's another Curious Handmade pattern actually, and it's the Talisman shawl. This was part of the Shawl Society that was running, started a few months ago, and I joined. I think there were 6 patterns in the series, all absolutely stunning. This was the first of them, and I just didn't get round to knitting any of them at the time as they were released. but do plan to work my way through them. But this is an absolutely stunning shawl, and there have been some lovely ones cropping up on Ravelry and all around on Instagram. So I think that's going to be a cast on probably in between Christmas and New Year. And I've got some beautiful yarn, which is this here. It's a really big skein. The green's coming out quite bright actually. It's a bit more muted than that in real life. But this is a Miss Babs skein. It's called Kira. I'm not sure if that's the colourway or the type of yarn. It's a 4-ply fingering, 100% superwash merino. This is a huge skein. It's 560 yards, 8.3 ounces. I don't know what that is in, not sure what that is in grams. I'm not sure if it says on the skein. And the colour, oh no, the colourway is called Drunken Watermelon. It's quite interesting colourway name. You can see the colours that are in these, the pink, the bright pink and the bright green. And then there's lots of very muted, up at this end of the skein, it's very muted, soft pink and the soft greens with speckles. Getting darker, more sort of like a rhubarby pink. And through to the greens and even sort of quite dark browns. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a monster of a skein of yarn. I was really lucky to get this. I participated in a yarn swap, international yarn swap, which Mina organised. Mina of the Expat Knits podcast. It was back in beginning of the summer, probably about May, June time. And a lovely lady in, I think she was in Texas in the States. She was my swap partner. And yeah, she sent me this and I couldn't have been happier with it. And I've been lovingly keeping it in my stash since then. And it's one of those skeins that it's even wound so beautifully. I just wanted to enjoy it as it was. But I think its time has come to fulfill its yarny destiny and become a talisman shawl. And I think it's going to knit up beautifully. I have no idea what my wool winder is going to make of this because it is a big skein. And I think we could end up with quite a big mess, but we'll worry about that when the time comes. Yeah, so beautiful yarn, beautiful pattern. I think they're going to make a really nice combination. So that's the whip to be for the new year. Okay, I thought I'd show you a couple of things that are sort of blasts from the past, really. I've been knitting again seriously for about a year and I've been quite prolific in that time. So I thought it'd be nice to show you some of the things that I've done before. One of which was a hat, which you'll probably all be familiar with, which is the bobble hat. I think this was Donna Smith designed and I love it. I haven't actually worn it yet. It's not been cold enough for me. I'm not a cold person. Once it gets really cold, I'll wear a hat if I'm out walking somewhere. But isn't it gorgeous? All the little sheep and the snow flurry and standing on the little sort of moorland. I think this pattern was part of Shetland Wool Week last year. And it's been knitted by everybody in various guises. There's even been looky-likeys of the pattern doing the rounds and various cowls and mittens and scarves and all sorts of things. But I think the original was the best. I knitted it in the recommended yarn, which is the Jamieson's Shetland yarn. It's a little bit itchy, I think. Now, do I dare try it on the podcast? Let's have a look, see how it looks. Can't actually see what I'm looking at now. I like to wear my hats. I like to wear my hats quite low. But yeah, it's a really, really lovely knit. Super, super warm because obviously all the colour work is stranded at the back, so you get a double layer. Nice pom pom. Yeah, I think it's a really cute hat. So when it gets a little bit chillier, I'll be the lady with a sheep hat. I'm going to have hat hair now, aren't I? Oh dear. Okay, not too bad. Yeah, so that was a little blast from the past. When I first knitted that pattern, actually, it's worth noting that it was way too big. And I'd followed the pattern correctly, needle size, the exact recommended yarn. I suppose if I'm honest, I hadn't actually done a gauge swatch. I'm a bit of a naughty knitter. I never ever knit a gauge swatch, and I'm sure it's going to catch me out big time at one point. And it did on this. So I frogged the whole thing. I'd completed the whole hat apart from the bobble, and I frogged it all, wound the yarn up and started again. Had a bit of a chat with my friend Sarah, and she'd knitted it and had the same problems, and she recommended going down, I think it was a couple of needle sizes, which I did, and made sure I sort of did it nice and sort of tighter gauge than my normal knitting, and it worked out really, really well. So that saved the day. And it really was no sort of burden to knit the whole thing again, even though I had completed it, which is a testament to what a fun pattern it is. And I would definitely knit one again if Lulu wanted one, or anybody else wanted one in the family, or my knit-worthy people. I think that's the key, isn't it? You don't mind knitting anything for anyone if they appreciate what you've done for them. And certainly with colour work, it has to be appreciated. Yes, that's the bubble hat. I'll just show you the inside. I'm probably not the world's best at carrying the floats across the back. A little bit scruffy in places. But this is what keeps you warm. It's this double thickness. So I hope you don't mind me showing you things from the past. It's quite nice to revisit some things that I've done. Also to get them out of the drawer and maybe start using them. Another item, and this is a proper winter woolly that I knitted, was the campside shawl. This is a paid for pattern, or is it paid for? I can't actually remember, it might be free, but it's on Ravelry. It always comes up in the first few pages of the sort of like hot to trot patterns. I think it's so popular. Designer is Alicia Plummer, and it's absolutely stunning. That's not me saying what I've done is stunning, that's me saying it's a stunning pattern. Really well written, really enjoyable knit. I'm just going to fold it over so you can see, I can show you in a bit of detail. It's a triangular shape, a bit like the windswept, and it just, you start off with the eyelets quite far apart, and then as you get towards the border, they're more densely populated within the shawl to this almost like a lattice pattern here. And I really like the edging of this chunky ribbed border. It's really, really nice. And this is such a cozy shawl. This is my go-to if it's really, really cold. When you're sitting and you don't want to put the heating on, but you've got cold shoulders. So I just pop it on. And it's also nice to wear over a long sleeve t-shirt in the autumn. I've worn this just to go out with jeans, because it's so, you can see, it's really nice and cozy. This was knitted in, I can't believe my hair now, it looks ridiculous. Yeah, this was knitted in Malabrigo yarn. I believe it was the Rios, and the colourway I believe was English Rose. But it's such a lovely pattern to knit. If you're thinking you need a nice, really warm, cosy shawl, then they don't come much better than this, especially in this weight of yarn. I'll see if I've got the band actually. I can tell you exactly what the yarn was. Yeah, Malabrigo, pure merino superwash, and yeah, Rios is the weight. There we go. And the English Rose colourway. Absolutely gorgeous. So that's two little blasts from my knitting past. Okay, so moving on, just a couple of things I wanted to mention. One is that I was watching Tracy Arnold's podcast, which is Crafts from the Third Floor, I think. Tracy's the genius behind Nora George Yarns, who obviously I'm a big fan of, and she's got me into a lot of trouble, so thank you, Tracy, because she told me that Deramore's, the yarn and knitting supply website, have got 25% offer on their website at the moment. Now, normally I don't tend to look so much at sites like that. I tend to favour the indie yarns, but what I didn't know is that they do hedgehog fibres, and they also do Sweet Georgia yarn on there. So at the moment in my basket I have a skein of hedgehog fibres, and I have a Sweet Georgia yarns. They do a 5 yarn gradient pack. I think it's called Party of 5, I think. So they're in my basket so far, and I do need to check. There's a couple of needles that I think I might need to complete my selection. So I'll be popping those in my basket later. But 25% off is a pretty good deal, and they also have free shipping over £25. So if anyone's fancying treating themselves after doing everybody else's gift knitting and buying everybody else Christmas presents, then pop along to Deramore's, but just don't steal the stuff that I've got in my basket, okay? Right, next thing I wanted to mention is the lovely Julie at Suffolk Socks. Actually, she's recently started a podcast too. She's like me, a podcast newbie. Her podcast is called Why I Let's Knit, because Julie's originally from the northeast, although she lives locally to me here in Ipswich in Suffolk. Her podcast is fab, so do check that out. What she's planning on doing in the new year is a knit along, which is called the Ipswich to Felixstowe cowl. And the inspiration behind that is a vintage postcard that she found, which shows a lady, I'm not quite sure what era, but probably about 40s or 1940s, 1950s, on a coach bound from Ipswich to Felixstowe, yep. And she's doing a knitting, and it's a really fun little image, and I think it inspired Julie to do a cowl with that name. So it's going to be a simple accessory, nothing too complicated, and I'm not sure the exact start date, but it's going to be in January, so I'll let you know. But I thought it'd be quite fun to have a little go on that cowl, and so have a look at Julie's podcast. I'm sure there'll be some more details on that, and have a look at her website, because she's got some fabulous yarns if you want to do some, you know, socks or gloves or hats or stuff like that. Lots of lovely sock yarns on there. So yeah, check that out, and yeah, I'll be playing along in the new year. I think that's probably everything for today. Just looking at my list. Yeah, I think I have pretty much covered everything. It is the 18th today, so we've only got a week before Christmas. Sorry, I was a little bit dry there. So I think I'll probably pop in before Christmas again, just very briefly. Ideally, I'd like to pop in on Christmas Eve, just to show you my cast on, because I can't wait to start my Christmas Eve socks in that lovely yarn with that lovely vintage fairy lights pattern. So I might pop in and just say hi then and wish you all a Merry Christmas. But if I don't, then I do wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and happy knitting. I hope you get lots of lovely yarny presents and have a really nice, peaceful and relaxing time with those that are near and dear to you. I will see you again soon. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye.